I know there is some core principles related to transformational connection. Could you say a bit about because as far as I remember, you when you are doing a workshop, you start out by saying what are the core principles of this type of relating. So, could you say a bit about that?
Yeah. So these principles are more like guiding lights while you're
Mm,
practicing. And so there's there's an understanding of them, and then an endless deepening of them in your embodiment.
yeah.
So yeah, one of them would be turning to the connection. So and revealing what's here. So what we just did is kind of naming, like, this is what I'm noticing or feeling. This is what's happening. And so one of the principles is that whatever is coming up in the connection, there's an invitation to reveal that. And it
Mm,
doesn't mean that you always stay in the connection no matter what is happening. But it's actually also revealing your no, I don't want to be in connection right now, or
mm,
revealing a boundary, or revealing like, I really didn't like what you just did or what you just said,
mm,
or yeah, just whatever is actually happening, that there is an invitation to bring it into the connection. So that's one. The other one is to include your body and embodiment. So yeah, oftentimes our body picks up so much more information and signals than we can process with our cognition.
mm,
So oftentimes we already feel something in our body, maybe a contraction, or where you just shared, like, oh, there's something happening in my solar plexus. And we don't know yet what it means, but we do invite people to bring that into the connection so that we can explore it. And that might be like, oh, yeah, my heart's beating, or I feel a contraction, or as I'm being with you, I all of a sudden feel this massive pain or stress in my shoulders. And that might mean that the other person goes like, oh yeah, it's true, I feel like, and
mm.
maybe they had a hard time these last weeks, or um yeah, we kind of bring it in just because the body has so much more, or so much
Mm.
wisdom to integrate. Um, the other thing, a principle is like trusting your experience. And this is for me such a powerful one. Actually, name it now as the third one, but I usually name it as the first one, because
Mm.
that's, trust that whatever is happening in your experience has wisdom, has a message, and is a holds a potential for more consciousness, or
Mm.
and it's not to say that it's always true, or it's always, but it's definitely something to explore.
Yeah.
So yeah, just trusting that. And then what becomes important next is to be able to discern, like,
Mm.
what is actually happening, or why is that happening, um and starting to differentiate between, like, okay, this is actually impact that I can share, and this is a projection, or this is not owned. So learning to
Yeah.
own how you make up reality, rather than blaming others for what's happening. And
Yeah.
that's
I think,
incredibly.
and this one is very important because you can sit in front of a person, and what if you get disgusted
Yeah,
by something the other person says or does, or then it can be quite, and then you express your disgust, and you will get perhaps the other person will get wounded and feel rejected, and suddenly we can come into some kind of a drama if we
yeah,
don't have these guidelines.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So there's skillful ways to bring in our experience. And that can include, like, oh, I feel a big impact when I hear you, and
Mm,
there's disgust coming up. That
mm,
could be potentially really important feedback, or a really important thing to explore. But we
Yeah.
can definitely also say like, "Ah, it's disgusting what you say," or "That really disgusts me," but that's actually maybe something gets touched in you that is more like your process. So being able to discern is important and something we work towards too. But um, we can make mistakes as well because we turn to the connection, so we can still
Mm.
also sometimes be like, I'm not sure if this is really owned, but I want to bring it. And if the other person's open to that, you can explore further together.
Yeah, and I think this is where the need for a skilled facilitator comes in, because often we cannot own because it's it's full of shadows, and we are blind. So when we go so deep together and start exploring the shadow aspect of ourselves, that's exactly what is disowned in
Mm.
ourselves.
Yeah.
Then there needs to be some kind of rules about not projecting to the other, and yeah, and then remember, one of them is to own what I experience is my experience, and it's not necessary that it has something to do with the other, because it's my experience. And I think that's a very important way for me to deal with unpleasant emotions, that I take full responsibility with what's going on
Mm.
inside of my environment, and not put it onto others that I feel the way that I do.
Yeah. And yet, this owning your experience is also uh, very much a maturity practice, I
Mm,
find. So, we don't hold it as a rule, we hold it as a principle or an intention,
mm,
because sometimes I'm not aware that I'm projecting, and I
no.
just, and so we can also help each other see, like, where are you projecting? Where are you disowning something in yourself? And then help each other deepen
Mm,
in that, or yeah, deepen the contact with those shadow parts of ourselves.
yeah.
So I want to hold it as a compassionate, because I find this one is so painful, because it also reveals, if I'm projecting, it also reveals where I'm kind of not fully owning my stuff, so it can
Mm,
be very vulnerable. And we lean towards the side of like, let's explore and
mm,
bring it so we can find a deeper truth together,
mm.
rather than only express when you're very, very certain that you're not projecting.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's for sure.